Hello, this is the full explanation video for the 3D functional strength training series that I'm having on YouTube. So in this video, I'll be going over exactly what is three-dimensional functional strength training, what I mean by it when I say it in these words, how we do it, why we do it, all those things, etc. So first, getting into what it is. So I'll first divide 3D functional strength training into 3D strength training and functional strength training, just so that you have an understanding of what I mean by both of these words in relation to strength training. So first we'll cover 3D. So 3D is implying that anything that moves in 3 dimensions, not 1 or 2 dimensions. So muscles in the body contract and expand or stretch, and in doing so they create movement, right? So if I move my arm like this, it's because one muscle contracted and one muscle extended, and as I do that, this muscle contracts and this muscle extends, right? This is done with the rest of the body too. Like you take the shin and the calf, right? With flexing like this, you can see one muscle will shorten in order to pull the joint where it needs to be, while the other one extends and flexes and lets the joint down. Whereas if I contract the front of the shin here, then the back of the calf will flex or not flex, but stretch and allow the joint to move as needed. And this is how the joints of the body move. But not all joints of the body are so simple as in contract, extend in just this manner. The body is very complex in how the musculature is working and how it's all weaved together. Because it's not just muscle here, muscle here, muscle here, muscle here. They're often interweaving and they're working together in coordination to exhibit multiple functions within the joints. So if we take back our example with the shin and the calf, right, there's not only flexing up and down, but there's sideways and then full circles, right? So all the musculature in the calf all weave and interline to create this three-dimensional strength, or this three-dimensional movement. So when we do three-dimensional strength training, we're trying to get the full development out of the muscles. If we only ever do this musculature or this movement for the muscles, we'll only develop parts of the muscles and not all of the muscles interweaving. So this can lead to imbalances in the muscle, which can cause injury. One that I often give an example of, because it's a very common injury that people get today, is in knee injuries. One of the common causes is imbalances in the musculature, and one of these imbalances can happen from the thighs. So the outer thigh is used for movements that bring the leg up, as well as to push out, which is a common movement in natural everyday walking, right? When we walk, we push out of our back foot more often than we think about anything else, so we're always constantly developing the outer thighs. The inner thighs work on squeezing movements inwards, as well as pulling and contracting like we're trying to pull ourselves or anchor ourselves into the ground with our leg. This is a less common movement that we would do in normal day practice, right? So everybody always ends up overdeveloping their thighs on the outside, but underdeveloping them on the inside. So what this does, because when we develop muscles, we essentially shorten them as they get stronger. So as the outer thigh will get thicker but shorter, it will pull more on the joint through the tendons, while this will be too slack to pull evenly. What we want is for all the muscles to pull evenly on the joints, so it's not going to cause the joints to do this, right? So if we have an overdeveloped outer thigh and an underdeveloped inner thigh, it will essentially pull the knee joint in this way, which will cause injury over time through overworking and overtraining things. Basically, it grinds things down. So we want to develop everything three-dimensionally to get full function out of our bodies, as well as to prevent imbalances in the musculature. And if we look at the everyday society, we can take another one, for example, right? We have very flat surfaces as we walk, and we get a lot of this kind of movement with our walking with our ankles, right? But we don't tend to get a lot of sideways movement or circular movement, which we would normally get if we weren't walking on flat paved areas, like if we're in the woods where there's a lot of rolling hills, a lot of rocks that your ankle has to sort itself out. Because we don't get that, our ankles are underdeveloped in such a way that is easy to cause injury by spraining, right? So many ankle injuries are common, where you'll catch your foot the wrong way and then you'll sprain your ankle. This is a lot less likely to happen if the musculature is developed properly and the tendons are strong enough from the development and the strength training to handle it. But because they're so weak, it's very easy to pull or strain. So it's very important to get into this three-dimensional movement in order for the most functional body possible that is less likely, less prone to injury. So this is what I mean by 3D strength. It's not just contract and extend in that simplicity, because our body is a lot more complex than that. There's twisting as well. So there's all sorts of different things, and you can look at the torso. If you ever look at a photograph of the human torso with the muscularity, you'll see a lot of muscles just interweaving over top of each other. This is because, again, like with every other joint in our body, the torso is very complex. It doesn't just bend forward and back, it goes side to side, weaves all around, and not only can we do in this way, but we can bend and flex with our spine, because our spine isn't a rod, but it has individual joints, so you can get a lot of kind of crazy twisting and whip-like motions if they're trained properly. But with society and laziness from so much technology and lack of exercise, it can end up fusing the spine together from lack of use. So we don't want to get that. We want to get as much of functionality out of our body as possible, which makes us a lot healthier, a lot stronger, and we can use this strength and health for whatever we may do, whether it's martial arts practice, just trying to be fit, or just overall general health, right? Trying to keep our body in shape. So that's what I mean by 3D strength. Now for functional strength. Functional strength, what I mean by that is the whole body utilizing its muscularity together as one, not just individual muscle groups. One thing that's common with a lot of exercises, not all exercises, and not that these exercises are necessarily wrong, but in isolation, they can create a problem. Isolating particular areas of the body or particular muscle groups is good for developing those muscles by themselves, but they don't help develop functional strength by using the body as one, right? If I try to pick up an object and I try to use only my shoulder to do so, right? Which is oversimplifying things, but to make a point, right? If I'm only using a couple muscle groups, those muscle groups are going to be using a lot more strength and working a lot harder than if I'm using more of my body. So each muscle will take, instead of 50 to 100% of the weight, they'll take each 10 or maybe even 1% if you're utilizing your muscles properly, right? You're spreading out the workload, essentially. So trying to work the whole body integrated as one unit rather than isolated things. Again, isolating for strength training, for developing particular muscles is great, but in isolation, without learning how to functionally use your muscles together and working cohesively, it can create problems. So by utilizing movements and exercises to learn how to make everything function as one, you're making your body more efficient in the way that it performs tasks. And the body does this technically to a certain extent, right? If I pick up an object and I'm just holding up this object in my hand, right? There's obvious shoulder use and there's lats use, the lats muscles here. Those will both engage to hold up the object, right? But if we say it's something that I'm grabbing, that also utilizes the muscularities of the forearm. And we also have to consider that it's using the muscularity of the torso and the core, because that would help stabilize the movement, so that when I pick up the object that's obviously not weighted the same in this hand, I won't just teeter-totter, right? So the muscularity of the torso helps to stabilize and keep that secure and balanced. And then whatever the weight of the object is also going to be held in the legs, because anything that you pick up is now added to your body weights in your structure. So the extra weight will be felt in your legs as well. So your whole body naturally utilizes itself together, but through bad habit, it can be less so or less efficient. We can also think about this as the more that we train to utilize the body efficiently, the better at it will be and the more efficient we'll be. Because if you think about it, playing catch with a ball, right, is a bit different playing catch with someone who just decided to play catch one day versus playing catch with a professional baseball player, right? there's obviously one is more efficient at catching and way better at it than the person who's untrained. So in the same way, we learn how to functionally use the body coordinated together so that we can utilize our body more efficiently, even better than we would untrained. Because the way that we typically do untrained is we do things very haphazardly and can often cause injury, which is where you see a lot of issues, like say someone tries to lift something and they hurt their back, is because they weren't utilizing their body properly to lift the object. So that's what I mean by functional strength. Utilizing everything together cohesively as one. So the exercises will reflect this, as well as target areas individually in order to understand how to move them three-dimensionally. So now as I'm getting into putting everything together and understanding how this series is going to go, right? I am going to not isolate the body necessarily, but I am going to do videos of these exercises, essentially taking the body in layers and saying, this is how you can three-dimensionally train strength within this area of the body or this region of the body, and then move to different areas of the body in order to show you the function, show you how to exercise them. And then after we've done individual areas, there'll be exercises where you essentially put everything together to function as one. So for example, one, we might focus on the calves, the shins, and the ankle joints associated with them. Then another video, we might cover the thighs, right, and the hamstrings, that area of the body. Another, we may cover the lower abdominal region, while another we cover the higher part of the torso and the chest, right? We'll be moving through the body to get as much function and as much knowledge about the function as possible. And then once everything is learned and put together, we'll put it all together and then learn how to get all those muscle groups to work together into a singular movement to work as functionally as possible. So I hope this is all understandable and that you are all getting something out of this. And I'm looking forward to doing this series with you all and to whatever benefit that it might give you, whether you're a martial artist and you want it to benefit your practice, or if you're just trying to get fit and you want some functional strength, or if you're just trying to improve your overall health. We'll be also keeping in mind that for these exercises, not everyone has a lot of equipment to work with, so these are going to be exercises using minimal equipment to only very lackluster, or not lackluster, but minimal equipment use. Sorry. So minimal equipment use or no equipment use, just so that nobody has to buy an entire gym to do this workout. All right, thank you very much. I'll see you in the next videos.